Let's call this meeting to order with the best attendance we've had for 2024. It's Thursday, May the 16th, 2024. We're here for a general budget workshop. I'm going to turn it over to Peggy and see what she's got for us.
Okay, when I went through, you guys budgeted last year all your revenue. And what I did is I took the revenue that came in this year and then for the 8 months, and then I divided it by 12 and then got 4 months, and it just took the average what was coming in based on that. So I have adjusted the cash, because that's what we're looking for right now, is the cash on all the funds. Does that kind of have an idea where we're at? So then I went through and I adjusted revenue just to see kind of where we're going to start out with. And my suggestion is for your budgets, do not put anything in on wages whatsoever, because what I'm understanding, we're going to have a wage study. So in order to, so we're not changing so many figures, we will, and I'm saying we and the commissioners will get together on the wage study to see where we're at, and then we'll plug and figure out your burn rates in the wages, if that sounds like it's reasonable.
I don't think that sounds reasonable at all.
Is that no wage increase for longevity, or just no wage increase for?
Well, just leave your wages as they are for this budget year until we can, because right now we're in an early part of the budget, very early part. So this is just starting, Jerry. So
Right,
if
but
we,
you guys have no clue what our employees are doing, what more.
I'm not arguing that.
No, and I'm not arguing.
But
How,
We're just
explain
trying
me
to,
how
what
that
I'm
works.
trying to do right now is just get a base where we're at by cash. If I take your wages this year, some of the departments aren't going to make it with where the cash is.
we have a deficit, and one of the things is I've talked to Tony, the auditor, yesterday, and I also talked to our auditor, which is Ides and Bailey. Ides and Bailey is waiting on the trial. They just got another trial balance. Tony did, and you guys are posting more stuff to the trial balance.
I just finished
Ides and
that.
Bailey is waiting on the budget to actual figures of the audited financial statements, and the audit's been taking a long time, the regular county audit. So really, we are in a deficit. So there is going to be problems this year. I mean, I can't guarantee raises. I can't guarantee. We are going to really have to sit down and figure out where we're at, because last year we put in $1.7 million of cash into our budget that we did not have. We also raised taxes 3%. We also went out and paid off debt. We also took foregone. So we're going to be short this year. Peggy's finding some areas that we may have understated our income. But when we get down to it this year, we're all going to have to, it's going to be, we don't know exactly how much we're going to have to cut if we do. And, because you can't raise enough taxes. If you raise taxes, that's only about $170,000. A 3% tax raise to all the residents here is about $170,000. And how do you split that up? $170,000 when the price of expenses just for your office supplies, your fuel, and then your employees. So I mean, we're in a bind. So we're going to really have to look at it this year, and it's not. We'll know why. We're going to know why here in about by the end of May, and it looks to me like it was they were overestimating the income. So until we get those final figures from Ides and Bailey, we don't know. And the problem is with their audit is they've been waiting for the regular county audit. If they wouldn't have waited for the regular county audit, it would have cost us probably $50,000 to $100,000 to have them come audit our books. They're going off of audit figures. So Tony is auditing the books, and then he's gonna give them the audited financial statements for the end of the year, and then they're gonna make their determination, their decision off of that.
Still not sure I heard Jerry's question though. What were you really asking?
Well, when you guys determine the wages, I mean, you guys have no idea. I'll use Savannah for instance. Savannah works lead work in DMV. Also, she's been at training in our office for when Connie's retirement and stuff. So she's taking on more duties, more responsibilities. And that's just one example. You guys don't know that. So is it fair to keep her at her same salary that she was making last year? And I think that's every department. How can you guys determine?
Well, we
We're
can't
not trying
determine if we don't
to,
have the
Jerry,
money.
that's where I'm coming
That's
from.
the
I'm not
problem.
trying to determine
So-
anything yet.
Yeah.
All I'm trying to is make sure we're at one figure right now until we get all of our information together. We know that we already have a 5.9 increase off of insurance for this coming year. We're just trying to keep the figures so that at the level they are right now, so we don't change figures until we get all the information together.
So you're kind of just saying pause.
Pause.
Right,
on
so
the
we're not-
payroll.
yeah.
We're doing it in two sections.
Exactly,
And the
and
rest,
we're
okay.
just trying to make sure you guys aren't going through all the extra work right now.
So don't worry about the payroll.
So the wages will come back to us.
The wages will be another discussion.
Okay.
How's
Okay.
that sound?
Yeah,
Because
that
right
makes sense.
now, we just want to stay at one figure, so we know where we're at. If you guys start putting in all these requests, and when we're putting them in the budget module, then then I'm coming back through as a budget officer and changing it all back to one figure again, so that we know where our base is.
Mhm.
We're looking for a base right now. There is a deficit here. I'm not gonna lie to you guys,
So
is
Peggy,
what I'm seeing.
quick question, so do you want us to use our figures from last year's for wages or not at all?
Yeah, well, yes.
Use them from
Use them
last
for
year?
last year, because we can
Okay.
subtract those out real easy.
Okay, that was,
Right.
okay, On just the- want to make sure that that's
Right.
exactly what you want.
And then on the direct grants, I haven't seen direct grants, which is, that with the new law of transparency, we've got to bring them back up into the budgets and advertise that. So when you're having a direct grant, you put in your grant income, and then we'll put it down into, if it's wages, we'll open up another account in that fund and say, hey, this is the wages for that grant, so that we can watch it. So everyone can see what's going on with that. And that's how that, but we used to do that years ago. And then,
Peggy, for my simple mind, can you define direct grant?
well, you just came in for a wage grant.
Mhm.
That's a direct
Our
grant.
step grant.
Okay,
That anything to do with wages.
okay,
Because on the modules, on computer arts, we don't have the function where I can bring it down into the trust account, because then you get two W-2s. We don't have that function within our system. So we have to watch where our system is. So everything that has to be opened up into a payroll has to be in the fund it comes into.
okay, thank you.
Does that help?
Can I ask a question on that?
Sure.
We won't know about our grants until about August.
And that's fine, because you can always estimate grants.
Okay.
Okay, put it grant income and grant expense down here.
Okay,
Even if you don't get it, then you know you can't spend it.
okay,
Does that make sense?
okay.
That's the way we used to do it years ago.
So Peggy, one more question about
Sure.
the whole grant thing, because I have a lot of those. So say on one of our line items, we say, like, in one of our deputy prosecutor line items, we have them using stop grant and ILET money, but we don't have that position filled. Do you want just a line item that says,
Well, then you guys will know you can't spend it.
But
You
if
know, we've
somebody
always
else
said
is
bottom
doing-
line. But on these grants, it isn't bottom line. It's subtracting those grants out. You know, way back when.
so here's my question then, 'Cause like right now, it's gonna be our deputy prosecutor, which is not a filled position, but Brittany has been doing that. So right now, we have it, whichever line item she's coming out of, but in our actual budget, it's in a different line item. Do you not want it that way, or do you want it,
I want it different, yes.
okay. So how exactly do you want me to put that on? I'm just, in my mind, I'm trying to write this down so I can figure out exactly how, like, if, like, our fourth prosecutor was supposed to be handling stop grant stuff, that position isn't filled, somebody else in our office is handling that. We're still using those funds, but it's not coming out of that line item. Do you want a separate line item, or do you want, like, journal entries? Am I making sense?
Yeah, you just wanna hit the expense to the where it is. We can do either, Flo.
Okay,
Whatever's easier. We can do journal entries on something like that.
okay,
As
so
long
leave
as,
it in the
as
fourth,
long as it's within the same fund.
okay, yes, as long as it's in the wage fund or whatever.
Yes.
Okay, so it doesn't matter which one it's in, as long as we can do journal entries to put it where it really needs to be.
Yes.
Gotcha. Sorry.
When you talked about later coming back to do a wage study, and I think part of what Jerry's question is who's doing the wage study? Is somebody coming in to do the wage study, or is each department or each elected official doing their own study?
Oh.
When you started out saying we're gonna come back with a wage study to determine wages, who's doing that study?
This is the first time we have been pursuing getting a price for a wage study. Tying it, I still don't know that we could guarantee it'll be, if we get it, that they'd have their numbers to us for this budget year or not. We're not far enough along to,
Okay, see,
To
I wasn't
know.
sure where you guys were.
yeah. I mean, we're getting our prices and we're getting our estimates, but even if we engaged them tomorrow, they've never said how long it would take. And then that wage study would go out to each of your departments and each of you, and you'd all be involved in it. And we'd try and figure out, it'd be an outside company. So honestly, I don't know how the whole process works because I've never conducted a formal wage study before, but
So we haven't even started?
we have, help me, Jeff, if I'm wrong. We have requested prices. We have one company that's bid so far that has been recommended to us by the state of Idaho. I think we decided, did we decide we have to put it out to bid, or that was the only bid that we got that was?
That, Tracy was heading that up.
Yeah, that's the problem. Tracy's in charge of that. So, but we do have one company, and they were giving us prices for and it's the company that the state recommended to us.
But in the meantime, you're saying use our current salaries now, get the preliminary budget going. Sometime this summer, as we get through the budget, we figure out what the deficit is or not. We may be able to then talk about whether somebody can get increases or not. And
Well, I've already kind of started with what some of the wages increases from I've got the sheriff's office done, and anyone that has had wage increases through the past. I went back, I'm thinking 18, 19 and all the way through. And I will show you, and you guys will all get copies of it, of how your increased wages from year to year went. I think that would be helpful for the commissioners and for your own self, so you can see what's happening. Basically, on $5,124,000, 3% of that, like I said, is only $150, and that has to be shared amongst all of us. It isn't just one department, or two departments, or three departments. It's basically, that's what we have to share among all of us. And what has happened is the cash has been used up because there wasn't enough money actually to fund some of these raises also.
Right.
And so
For the last several years.
I went back
Last
when
several years we had cash.
we had cash.
Last couple of years, because some of those massive increases we see in salary drew that cash down. So
Exactly,
our savings is at zero.
pretty much.
So,
So that's where I got, like I said, I got the sheriff's office done, and I got part of the road department started. So all the departments are going to get that same sheet. So then the commissioners will get that, so you can everything can be seen in a figure, so you can see what happened.
So when you talk about using the numbers from last year, you know, I think most departments are now on a step pay increase. We have some employees that will increase their wage this year. So do we still include that, what it would be, or?
Well, not at this point, is what I'm saying, Holly. Not at this point, because we
Okay.
just want to pause the salaries right now. That's what I'm trying to do, so that I don't have to go back and forth, because once you start changing all these figures, that's where the errors come. Because not everyone is catching on and balancing to those things.
And that's what we're trying to avoid too.
Right,
We don't want to have
to keep redoing these figures,
that
exactly.
7 or 8 times. And I thought that's what we would learn here today.
Yeah, and I just wanted to make sure that everybody knows what our situation is in the county, you know, and it's, you know, we're gonna have to be making some decisions. Hope, you know, Peggy is finding some other areas where we understated income, so, you know, but I don't wanna make any promises. That's, you know, we don't know exactly where we're at, and, you know, we may have to make some cuts this year. It's, you know, if you don't have the money, you know, you can't spend it. And that's, I just want to forewarn everybody just to really make sure that it's, you know, we're at that point where we may have to make some decisions that are not going to be very.
Well, as long as those cuts are fair.
Exactly.
Because elephant in the room, some departments got humongous increases. It would not be fair to ask those departments that didn't get those humongous increases to do the cutting. I would encourage you to go out and look at IEC's wage study they just released.
We have.
Shoshone County's wages are not in there because I think the clerk, you know, changing.
No, we have our.
Not the IAC one we're doing.
Oh,
We've got
IAC.
this.
Oh, we
We've
have
got
the
state
state.
control, yeah.
We went to the
Right.
state.
I would guess from changing of clerks and stuff that got dropped, and there's a couple other counties that are in there. I'm telling you folks, Shoshone County is deplorable.
It is, you know, I can agree with you.
It's comparing the like-sized counties and stuff, it breaks my heart. How our employees are suffering. And our cost of living has increased here, I would guess, more than those counties. We used to have a pretty good cost of living, and everyone knows we don't have it. And in no way am I saying those people that got the increases didn't deserve it, because they did, and then some. But, you know,
But not everybody that deserved one got one.
or in direct proportion. So that's the hard part. And I think anyone can tell you here, if you tried to hire someone for what we pay now, you ain't gonna find anyone. And you pay with what you get. You get what you pay for.
Well, and I worry about that too for law enforcement, because we're pretty low on the pay scale for law enforcement. Most of our deputies live over the hill as it is. So, you know, if we're looking at pay cuts or.
It's not only law enforcement.
No, I understand that,
I mean,
but
it's
like
every-
just speaking on our agency, you know, it would be catastrophic for the county to lose the deputies that we have, to be honest.
It would be catastrophic to lose any of our employees, whether they're officers or appraisers or grader operators.
I understand that, and I agree with you. I totally agree with you, but I'm talking about like straight up public safety. Like it would be detrimental to our community to not have police responding to crime.
And firefighters, not that that's counting, grader operators to keep our roads cleared and stuff, responders and stuff. Any department in here, it'd be detrimental to lose those employees or to get sub-employees that we train and, you know, those deputies can make a lot more money over here.
Well, and that's part of
So
the
can
problem
our
is that
appraisers.
if we lose the deputies that we have that are actually seasoned now. And then depending on whatever wage we're offering based on the crisis in our county, we'll end up getting deputies that are low quality, high liability. You know, I've been through it. I've been through it with this county.
Yes, but that's every department.
Yeah, but your department doesn't carry guns, and your department doesn't deal with people's immediate, you know, constitutional rights with guns and fighting. It's like you
Yes,
can't.
we do.
You don't carry a gun, Jerry. It's
No,
different. You don't
but-
respond to domestics.
Okay.
You don't respond to like burglaries and it's different. And I'm not
But-
saying your job isn't dangerous at all. I'm just saying it's different.
And they're compensated for that.
Who?
You're down.
Well, now they are.
And-
But if we're talking about like losing that,
Right.
it's going to cause some major issues with the county. It just is. Like I can't express it enough. It will cause a lot of problems with the county.
Our appraisers are knocking on every door in the county, whether they're constitutionalists or great people, which 90% of them are. I mean, and they're out in rural areas by themselves, no cell phone service, no guns.
I totally understand that, but what I'm saying is that our job is to respond to problems where violence is imminent.
Yes.
And your job is to respond to calls where there might be somebody violent, and it's different. And I mean, we can chew on this all day.
That's right. We can't.
But I do appreciate where you're coming from. I totally understand where you're coming from. I just want to point out that losing the deputies that we have and then going back to hiring somebody who doesn't make it or leaves in a year because we don't pay anything is extremely expensive to the county, because just to train one person, I mean, we're talking like $80,000
yes, and
per person.
that's when we train our appraisers, or whether it's a grader operator, a dump truck, you know, a firefighter, a garbage man.
And the other thing is
Maybe not
like
to the
having
degree.
a person that's like lower quality of intelligence, lower quality of education, and they're out there carrying a gun, making decisions on, you know, like this. It's just not a position the county wants to be in. It's just not.
And
So
the thing
that's
is,
pretty
is
much my soapbox.
we're going to go through this because, you know, the inflation, there's no way a government can keep up with our inflation right now. I mean, there's no way that the county or the cities could really, you know, with the housing prices going up and everything going up. So, you know, I don't know what the answer is going to be, but the thing is, you know, it's uncontrollable. You know, our housing is ridiculous up here right now. And really, to get an officer or an appraiser or anybody to move up here, or even an attorney, it's out of the question. You know, we're gonna have to work through this. We're gonna probably, you know, it's happening everywhere.
Well, and the thing is, you have to realize, and I'm not going to, but every department here is just as important as another department.
Right.
Because if you didn't have the appraiser, you wouldn't have the income. If you didn't have the accounting department, you wouldn't get a paycheck. Every department is important. That's the problem.
I understand
And
that
they're
every
all
department is
underpaid.
important, but I also understand that our department carries way more liability than most other departments.
Well, let me move us to a slightly different topic area for a minute. We're all in this room, and I'm feeling the warmth because we had to close the windows because it's so hot out there and hot in here. But the realities that we're all stuck with, all of us equally, is that we've inherited a county that spends more than it takes in. So we have deficit spending that we have to stop. Inflation, even if we were break even, inflation is outstripping how fast we can raise taxes to pay. We have employees who are underpaid in many, many departments compared to, I mean, I've looked at the IAC studies. That's why we decided we'd spend some grant money and do the wage study. Mm-hmm. It's going to tell us something, I'm afraid, that we can't afford to fix right away, but at least it gives us a target that, it's not just one person's opinion. It really is the expert opinion that we are underpaid in this and this and this area. We're going to have to get by and keep serving the public. So we know we got we don't have enough money as it is. We know costs are going up, and in theory, it'd be nice if wages were going up because our employees are feeling the burden of the cost of living. That's going to take cutting somewhere. And I don't think we should jump right to people, because to me, the people is a big part of our solution around here. I mean, but philosophically, we're going to have to discuss, would we rather cut wages or cut numbers of people and leave the wages they are there? Is there other areas that we can cut? I mean, this county's been cutting for a while, so it's not like there's a lot of fat left. But what are we going to do to make the balance? And I would like to hear some ideas about that. And yes, we're going to have to try and apply them equally across, and fairly and all of that. But we don't have enough money. We all agree that people are underpaid. But we got to have a solution. So something's got to get cut. Maybe it's not people, but what is it? What are we going to... We're going to have to do without something. This is like family budget time. We're going to have to do without something. And if we cut pay, we all know, I don't think there's much argument that when you cut pay, you lose people. And when you lose people, it costs big bucks to retrain, and we start to lose money there. Whether we can give raises or not, we're not there yet.
We're not there.
We don't know.
This is
Cost of living or
this
whatever.
is really a preliminary, because you guys haven't even got your budgets into me yet. So I can look at your list. What I basically did is try to put a book together from each department so the commissioners could see where the cash is either there or not, with the actual cash figures that came in the last 8 months. And then I guessed with the income that was projected last year, like Forest Patrol. There was 18,000 coming in for that. Well, I knew it was too early for that, so I went ahead and stuck the 18,000 in there. Looking at the last 5 years, saying, yeah, we're going to get that. So everything is projections at this point. But in order to get started on something, I basically don't want you guys to go through a lot of work on the wages and the burdens and the insurance and all of that until we know where we're going to be, where we, come down and sit down and talk a little later on, because they just got their books today. This is something that normally is done in more of a July and August type thing on this cash projection. And I normally do that for the commissioners at that time. Well, I was racing trying to get that done so that they would kind of have an idea. And I know that there were things that the grants paid, like VIBA last year. We don't even know if I haven't gotten a total. I haven't, seen where the policy has been, if it's been changed, it's the same amount. Those are some of the things, I got some months to check out, and say, okay, to the commissioners, oh, this is what it cost us on the grants last year. Do we try to put it back in? Because I know there's a lot of stuff that was paid in capital off of the grant money. And now we have to try to get some of that back into the budget as well, because if you don't start and have some type of a plan, you're not going to have the cash further down the road.
Peggy mentioned earlier, total wages is 5 million.
No, that's your.
Well, what you said.
That's your budget.
3% equals 130,000.
That was the taxes,
Tax-
total tax
property
revenue.
No. She said you were talking wages, and you mentioned 5 million.
Well, I said that's our highest of tax budget. So that's where you get your 3%. Is what I was
You were
talking.
quoting the L2.
Yeah, I was
Yep.
quoting the L2.
Do you know approximately what our total wages are?
I've not added them up. We used to have that big, huge sheet. And
Would you guess? We all know that's our number one expense by far. would you guess it's 80% of our budgets,
Well,
maybe less, 70?
I can have that figure to you probably by the
What-
end of next
just-
week. My guess,
Just for discussion.
discussion would be that our wages are the highest out of the A budget is the highest than the B,
Consider.
considerably,
So
yes.
if we're all cutting our B budgets, it's not gonna get us very far. And we did that. We sat down here last
Right.
year.
We did that
Cut,
last
You did.
Cut, cut that.
Right,
All of us did.
right.
So, you know, that leads me to believe that if it comes down to it, B budget, there isn't a lot to cut anymore.
No.
Have we looked at those forms of revenue? Increase in revenue.
We have been increasing some. You know, good news last week, we found a way to get the Forest Service to pay us 50 or 60,000 more for the airport if there's forest fires. So please, nobody go start one. But you know, so we are looking at ways of new revenue. That was the most recent one. But
Interest was really nice, little surprise.
yeah,
I mean, that's coming in pretty nice.
On our end, the state inmates we're housing is significantly higher, so we're already like $50,000 over our projected revenue. We just billed $42,000 for last month, so
Which about doubled
See-
the month prior.
yeah.
Which that would
Not
be
by
good.
choice, they just won't
Yeah.
move them out of our
Yeah.
facility. But we'll take it.
maybe we should raise the price.
Yeah.
On what?
Can you?
Not
Not right now, we just did.
Yeah, on my projections, yeah. Well, the sheriff's office is
So
on its own.
So right now, is everybody clear on what we're doing with wages? Because we've had 2 or 3 ideas bounce around.
Are you clear?
Status quo for the moment, but I-
Thank you.
Right now, are we just putting down status quo?
Status quo.
My
Okay,
carry on
but this is
right now.
May, and that's not the end of the discussion. And I think that's an important message too.
So we're mainly working on our D budget, is what we're trying to figure out and get that
Yeah.
portion done.
No, I
Everything else
understand
is
that, but revenue-
on Peggy.
Let's get Peggy back in here on that one.
Okay, I'm sorry.
I said we're out mainly working on our D budget. We're not working on any other portion of it. That's right now what you're working on.
Right,
Correct? Okay.
wages we'll take care of, wages.
That's why I closed this one.
And it's just clear for
Yeah.
everybody.
But
Easy,
we'll have
decent.
to stay in, right?
E-budget.
We'll take care of it.
And
But then we'll have-
on the side, your capital. Don't put it in your budget, but put it on a sheet on the side and what it would cost on some of the capital. Just because that way, I don't know what's most important on capital for each department. I have no way of knowing. But what's most important to you guys would be different than me. So on the side, put on a sheet and get me prices or bids so that we can, if we can bring some of that capital back in this year in these budgets, we need to. Just because if you don't, long range, it can't be just wages, basically, the long range. It's not gonna work because then you won't have any cars or trucks or anything else. If you don't have
Right,
a
but-
plan to bring a little bit of that
But
capital.
couldn't we still plan on using some of the grant the money to I mean, rather than take a $2 million hit, could we use some of that money to offset the hit?
Well, yes, but that's why I said on the side, put it, so that way you guys, do we put it in the budget or do we put it on the side?
On
So
the grant.
that's,
I got you.
And we really need to be careful kicking the can down the road.
exactly.
Right.
When we do, you know, if we do put grant funds towards something, we need to also look at, you know, how, you know, we're just kicking the can down the road the next year or the next year. So we really need to look at, you know, are we going to make it and how we're going to make it when we decide that we're going to use grant money, because that's just prolonging it. I really think we need to really look back and study it to make sure that we can get that revenue. If we're going to put more money, more grant money into it, we need to look at how are we gonna make this work, kind of like we did with the new position upstairs. You know, we got a 3-year grant, and we're gonna have to start paying for it, so they're looking into it. So, you know, we're gonna have to look to the future to see that we're not kicking it down the road.
Well, and if you guys want to do a spreadsheet off of your wages as far as your longevity and that type of thing, just don't put it in for the budget module. Just put it on the side so that we kind of have an understanding of what would be coming.
Okay.
That way, we're not changing figures. That way, if we have a side project, then we can take a look. Commissioners at this point can take a look. Right now, we have a lot of decisions to be making, and the commissioners need to instruct me on some of their decisions that I haven't had a chance to go through yet. But, you know, we're getting to a point which is going to be on the deficit for this year. I don't know, you know, how much deficit you guys are going to cover.
Do we, if we froze all budgets across the county this year, how much deficit is there?
Well, just my projection is most of it's all in the sheriff's office. Most all of it is in the sheriff's office, and I think the assessors was short also.
If we just froze everything, but are we talking $1 million of deficit?
Between the 3 safety building, that's about 516,000 short.
And do you have our projected, that STEP grant? That's 80,000. And then we have some of those mobilization grants that are still sitting in the refunds that we haven't moved over for wages. That's the next thing I'm working on to email you. Those are about 30 to 40,000. So
I haven't got any
right.
information
I just got those.
Okay, and yeah, well,
You can only do so much at a time.
Right. When you apply for grants,
Right.
send me copies.
And
these are grants we've been working, and we talked to you about them.
And you got them.
Right. He just got me the information to get over to you guys.
Okay.
So it's on I've been working on this week with Holly, but
Well, and this, like I said, this is all projections at this point, all preliminary stuff. And if I get that information, then this will knock this down.
quite okay.
The other departments, I don't see any shortages. Just the 2 in my projections off of from the actual cash and what.
And that's without the capital expenses that we're going to have to start looking forward to incur.
That's without it.
Yeah.
And I think last year, you all know we used a lot of that grant money to avoid swallowing the bigger pill, the catastrophic removal of whatever. And I think Jeff and we're on the same page, but we're on different paragraphs, I think. I'm still willing to use some of that to keep stepping us down, because every year, as we keep increasing taxes and things. It seems to me if we can spread this out over 2 or 3 years, it will be less catastrophic than just saying, go eliminate half your department, and see what you can do with it. But we've got to get better numbers. Like if we really are only $500,000 short, or if we're really $1.7 million short.
It would be. See, we raised the budget last year by $400,000 from what it was the year before, and so if you put in the $1.7 million, that would be 1.3 short. Is basically
is how
without
short
the
we
capital.
were last year.
Yeah, without the capital. Well, you got to add the capital back in, which
Well, see, I
is
didn't
cars
touch capital.
every year.
I mean, I just went with what was cash and what was with the budgets last year.
So Peggy, can I ask a question?
Sure.
Regarding capital pertaining to my department roads, which doesn't come out of general, do you want me to follow suit with leaving capital off and putting it on the side at this point?
I would, because the way the commissioners is consistent for them, they can sit and look at everything and the decisions can be then made.
Thank you.
Same way with solid waste. Because solid waste and road are a little bit different.
So So anybody got ideas on how we go through this process and not discourage all of our manpower, because that is a real issue. How do we keep people encouraged? The fact is we will have to cut something. We have not said that will be people or salaries, or we haven't said what it is yet. And of course people will jump to worst case conclusions, but how do we get the message across to them that that's not our first answer? We're just going to go out and cut salaries or something. That's not what we're thinking.
I don't think this answers your question, but we need to fix this. The only way I see it is we need more money coming into the county. We need to sell the county. We need to be out there bringing things into the county to help us get better. Because we're never going to fix any of this by cutting the paper, the office supplies. It's not going to go away. We need to sell the county, which I don't know if it's a good, bad thing or bad thing, but we're getting a Maverick. We sold that land. Is there anything on the table? Do we have any thing out there going up? I mean, is there any?
We are looking at a few pieces of land that we think we might be able to sell. Again, it would be a one-time thing, but we are looking at that. We did our leases, the recreational leases brought in twice as much this year as last year. Is that a fair assessment? Yeah. So we advertise a little better, and it's still not a huge amount of money, but it doubled. We have a couple of other plans and ideas on the table, but this isn't the setting to bring all of those up. So we are working on raising income.
Have we got anywhere building permits?
Let's talk.
And those recreational lots paying salt and waste in St. Joe and North Fork and Court Lane. Have we done anything on that?
So maybe a round table of things that maybe someplace people can start sending you ideas or something.
One of the problems with the solid waste issue with county lots is we need to do, or with the recreational lots, is we need to do some kind of a planning and zoning change on lots, because right now they're all natural resource.
Yeah.
So I know.
So maybe we need to have
St. Mary's has a different.
I like that idea.
For their.
So I'm making myself a note.
They have a recreational lot, so I think.
So what if we had
We have to do something in the planning and zoning.
What if I planned a workshop and just invited folks that wanted to come to continue working on the income
I think that's a
ideas?
good idea.
Yep.
I'll invite lots of you, and then we'll see who shows up.
Agriculture, forest, everybody pays sometimes.
I did start a volunteer group of folks advising me on recreation, so we're starting to explore recreational ideas. But I think maybe if we had a separate workshop and just came together and brainstormed income increase things, and then maybe try and assign different get folks to tackle different parts of it so that we can accomplish. But we have increased 2 or 3 things in the last few months. So that's encouraging. Even the airport. I mean, 50,000 is 50,000. I mean, so all right.
Commissioner Joseph, I don't want to throw the turd in the punch bowl, but SRS hasn't been refunded. I mean, we've got our last check, and they've attached it to the farm bill in hopes that might not get cut out there. But I think you need a contingency plan if they don't reauthorize that.
That's a very real
Yes, it is.
punch bowl
It's a
problem.
possibility. Let's hope and pray. I think maybe do a commercial that's into our congressional, how important that is to this county. Without those funds, we'll be bankrupt. If you think, talking
You can't
layoffs and
fund.
stuff now,
There's no way.
wait, if you don't get that SRS money.
I think every county's that way. I mean, you look at Kootenai County and you know, our budget of 17 million, only 5 million of it comes from taxpayers, the property taxes. Kootenai County's in the same shape. They may have, you know, 60% covers their property taxes, or I can't remember, I did the figure. But yeah, it's gonna affect everybody, all the counties if that happens. And we're gonna need to do something about it.
It would affect Clearwater, Shoshone, Idaho counties.
Yeah. Okay. Other thoughts or ideas? My original question was, how do we not all go out here and spread doom and gloom? Like, okay, you're all getting your wages cut or something, because that's not what we're saying. But the truth is, we are saying something we'll have to cut. There's not enough money to cover what we spend. And that's been true for a few years now. We've just spent through the cash.
I think, I didn't mean to.
Go ahead. Go
I
ahead,
think
Sharon.
that, you know, I don't like to try and make bad situations pretty. I'll probably just talk to my staff and just ask them, would you rather have pay decreases, or would you rather give up personnel and try and give them a little bit of control over the situation? And I mean, the truth is, it's just it's difficult, and you can't really make that less difficult, you know. So I'll probably just be straight up with my staff and ask them what they would prefer. And I mean, the reality is, if we cut staff, we'll cut services, you know, and that'll be I think pretty tough on the community.
Yeah, and that's the problem. The community wants these services.
Mm-hmm.
They don't understand what it costs to provide those. I mean, it's difficult, and it's difficult because all our taxpayers are seeing the same thing we're seeing. I mean, it's
Well, and it's kind of a double-edged sword, because if we cut services, then we'll have to cut contracts that we do to provide income to the county, because we just won't have enough personnel to get it done, you know. So it's just, I don't know.
I think bi-weekly meetings like this to just keep us informed would help.
I agree. Yeah,
I agree.
You can do that.
Okay.
And I think that both will happen. If you cut wages, people will leave. So not replacing those people would be a cost savings. It would be tragic for our community to lose anybody in any department. But if you cut wages, people will leave because they can't afford to take care of their families.
Well, yeah, and you know, I always think that, you know, I have a lot of deputies that live over the hill, and it was because it was cheaper to live there for them. But they can also make $20 more an hour, $26 more an hour over there with a $10,000 sign-on bonus if they join the Post Falls, Kootenai, ISP, whatever. And you know, they're veteran police officers, and so I don't know. It honestly keeps me awake at night constantly.
Yes. Or any one of my 3 appraisers could double their wages by going to the rate right now. So, and I think that goes for your equipment operators, even your transfer station workers, and all of those. If not over the hill, it's the private sector.
Yeah.
Colleen and Lucky Friday is down. You know, when we had Max here, he's now working up in the mill at Lucky Friday, making a really good wage.
Well, the thing is, you have to love what you're doing. You're not ever, you know, outside
and you still have to
county
pay the family
government.
too on top
Yeah,
of it.
outside county government, you can make more money. Anyone can with the degrees. They can. But you either, the county, you know, it's always been this way. It's never has changed. It's been this way for how many years? We've always trained people, and they've gone over the hill. I get that. And it's the ones that love the county and love the lifestyle, they're going to stay.
See, I disagree with that, because it's hard to put dinner on the table if you can't afford it. And whether they love it here or not, you may not be able to just afford it. And that's kind of where we're at, because the people that work here, they love it. They love it here. That's why they've stayed. I haven't lost anybody in the last year.
And unfortunately for Holly, those that live over the hill love to recreate here. I mean, go that way on a Saturday morning, any time of year. But hate the skiers and the snowcatters and cross.
But the
Back
inflation
country.
has hit just not just the county, it's hit private industry as well.
But
Everyone's been caught with this.
Yeah.
And all the nonprofits I sit on, we're all scrambling for money there as well, because we can't pay them what's the going rate, and we're still scrambling.
the nonprofits, yes.
Here.
But you go to McDonald's, and that hamburger that was $4 last year is now $6. So they're able to recoup some of their costs and expenses where we can't.
Exactly.
That's the trap.
3%
That's the
cap.
trap.
Thank God for Percy. If we didn't have Percy,
But
we'd
All
lose.
the-
So we're all aware of the problems. It's not politics, it's just math.
it's math.
Decisions have been made in the past. Now we're coping with those. We don't want to go out and just discourage everybody that, you know, the end has come. It has not. The county has been broke before.
We've been broke before.
We had this issue 32 years ago when Bunker Hill went down, and we thought, that's it. We can't run the
And I
county
came
without
after
Bunker
you.
Hill. And you said, and there was life after.
But, well, I mean, after your first term. But,
Yeah.
when I came, I literally was watching cash to pay bills. Could I afford to pay this bill? That's how bad it was before. So it's not like this is new.
Well, yeah, but I think we need to get out of, we've been through this before, and, you know, because we were also the, like, top crime, we had the most crime in Idaho, in our little county. And there comes a point where we decide, do we want to become Portland, Oregon, or San Francisco? Because that's pretty much what's going to happen if we don't have law enforcement responding to the calls that they're responding to. And that's what I'm concerned about. Like, we just need to get out of, well, we've done this before. Well, yeah, we have, but we need to figure out what we're going to do now. You know, just, we need to start thinking outside of the box. We need to start, I don't know, we need to figure it out. Because
Well, like you said, it's math. It's,
Yeah.
it's, I mean, I can't go out physically and say, and raise it any higher than the 3%. I can't.
And I understand that, but I feel like the answer is not, well, we've been through it before, because it's not going to be good for our county. We just need to figure things out with brainstorming meetings, with
The revenue.
yes, we need to work toward change, because we can't just keep going back to what we always were, because then we'll just become the #1 crime in Idaho again. And, you know, I worry about that, because look at how much our crime has increased with a full force, and the rate of violence that's happening in the last couple years. It's just like blown my mind. And then I wonder what would happen if we'd have to cut services, you know? So I think that I understand where you're coming from, that yes, this has happened before and we got through it, but it was with great consequence. And I just feel like we need to get in the mindset of, like, what can we do to change this predicament? Because there's got to be something that we can do to help with it, I guess.
Well, we're making little gains. We just need bigger gains. And everybody's doing their part, and everybody's living, you know, you all made cuts to your budgets last year, and you've lived within that. And I mean, since the public can watch this video, I want to give credit to everybody who's doing their job and been doing it with less this year than they had the year before. I will commit to scheduling some revenue workshops, ideas, you know, where we can just brainstorm and collect. We'll do them in workshop format, so they're free for brainstorming. We will continue doing that. The commission has continued doing those, you know, those kind of activities. So we'll just take on more ideas. And, you know, the problem sometimes is having the manpower to go out and do Some of these are fairly complex, but let's see what we can come up with. Peggy, you have started us off early so that we could all panic for 2 months longer. So, no.
I did.
I'd rather have time to prepare
Well,
and not be on the like
It's-
time.
It's numbers, and I just want to make sure you guys realize we're trying to work. I'm trying to work with all of you to try to save what budgets and where I'm looking myself to see where we can gain.
Mhm.
I'm not trying to cut anything. You
That's right.
see my email that I sent out prior. I'm trying to maintain what we have.
No, noted. Like we all know that. There's no
So-
there's no question about that.
But I'm I'm within this 3%.
And I really think, we're fortunate to have Peggy back at this time because this is, we really need this. To come in and do an 8-month income,
Projection.
suggest or whatever projection.
We get what you're saying.
Anyway, we didn't do that last year. I mean, we've got to really make sure that we're looking at our income throughout the year to see, hey, we're not going to get this, and I think each department that has their own income coming in, I think maybe we need to look, the departments look at their own income that they're generating and pay more attention to that instead of the clerk doing it, just making sure your projections are coming in right. And I think that's important that we go through that, and so that we can be notified early that, hey, we're not going to, it's not here yet, or we overestimated it somehow, or something happened. So I think we need to really just watch that as we go forward.
And some good news, Sheriff. I mean, Lance is back. Crime should cut by 50%.
Oh yeah.
It's already went down significantly.
Just significantly dropped that. So. Is there anybody else with something that you want to add before we adjourn?
Well, I think the bloody obvious is that through necessity comes solutions.
Mhm.
Through collaboration comes tolerance. So, we all got to share in the pain. We all got to share in the gain. And so it's just going to be this group. And that's part of what Peggy was probably talking about. That's where the old days we got through them because of collaboration and because of solutions. And if it comes up with, I think revenue is going to be the answer. I think as with any solution, there's usually 5 parts to that solution. And so selling off some property is going to fix the problem, but it's going to help. If we don't replace somebody, that might help. If we use less paper, that might help. Everything's going to help to some degree. So everybody's got to sharpen the pencil and figure out a way.
That was profound.
Be careful with those sharp pencils.
Yeah.
Don't run it back.
All right. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
We're adjourned.